my daughter said. You'll eat after everyone else. The words hit me like ice water. Before we continue, first let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Mig Babies from Texas. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. I stood there holding the beautiful golden turkey I had been cooking since sunrise. The dining room was full of her friends, her husband's family, and my grandchildren. But when I tried to sit at the table I had set myself, she pointed to the kitchen counter. There's not enough room, she said. You can eat when we're done. Something inside me just snapped. Not with anger, but with a strange kind of calm. I looked at that turkey, still steaming hot, and made a choice that surprised even me. I picked up the whole turkey platter and walked straight to the front door. Nobody said a word. They just stared as I balanced the heavy dish in my arms and stepped outside into the cool November air. My car keys were in my purse by the door. I managed to get both the turkey and my purse, then walked to my old blue sedan. The turkey sat on the passenger seat like a golden treasure. I drove the 10 minutes to my empty house, the one I had left 6 months ago when Sarah convinced me to move in with her family. You'll be happier with us, Mom, she had said. No more worries about cooking for one or being lonely. But I wasn't lonely in my own house. I was peaceful. I carried the turkey inside and set it on my old wooden table. The house smelled like dust and old flowers, but it was mine. I carved myself a thick slice of turkey, spooned some stuffing, and sat down with my favorite blue plate. The silence felt like a warm blanket. No one asking me to pass something. No one telling me to speak quieter. No one treating me like a burden they had to feed. The turkey was perfect, juicy and seasoned just right. I ate slowly, tasting every bite. 4 months at Sarah's house, I had eaten quickly, quietly, always feeling like I was taking up too much space. Now I chewed thoughtfully and looked around my kitchen. My coffee cups were still in the cabinet. My recipe books still lined the shelf. Everything exactly where I had left it. After dinner I washed my one plate and one fork. Then I sat in my favorite chair by the window and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. I thought about how I got here. After my husband died 2 years ago, I had managed just fine on my own. I cooked, I cleaned, I tended my garden. But Sarah kept calling with worry in her voice. Mom, you're getting older. What if something happens? What if you fall? She meant well, but her worry became my cage. Slowly, she started making decisions for me. First, she hired someone to clean my house. Then she suggested I stop driving at night. Then she wanted me to sell my car altogether. Each suggestion felt like love but tasted like control. When I moved in with them, Sarah promised things would be different. You'll have help with everything, she said. But help became rules. Don't use the stove when the kids are around. Don't answer the door without asking first. Don't call your friends too late. Oh, don't. I became a guest in someone else's life, tiptoeing around their schedules, their preferences, their comfort. And today, when she made me eat separately like I was some kind of servant, I finally understood. This wasn't about love or safety. This was about convenience. Their convenience. I picked up my phone and called my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She answered on the second ring. Dorothy. Is everything okay? I smiled at hearing my own name. At Sarah's house, I was mostly just Mom or Grandma or she. Never Dorothy. I'm back home, I told her. For good, she asked. Yes, I said, surprised by how sure I sounded. We talked for an hour. She caught me up on neighborhood news. The Johnsons got a new dog. The corner store changed owners. Normal, everyday things that felt like treasures after months of being cut off from my real life. That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time in months. My pillow smelled like home. My quilt was exactly the right weight. I woke up naturally with the sunrise, not to the sound of children fighting over breakfast or Sarah rushing around getting ready for work. I made coffee in my old percolator and scrambled 2 eggs. I ate standing at the counter, looking out at my backyard garden. The flowers had survived without me, growing wild and free. Maybe that was a sign. Maybe I could survive just fine too, growing on my own terms again. The phone started ringing around 9. Sarah, of course. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I answered. "Mom, where are you?" Her voice was tight with panic. "I'm home," I said simply. "You can't just leave like that. People are asking questions. You embarrassed me." I felt a flash of the old guilt, the need to apologize and smooth things over. But then I remembered the feeling of sitting alone at my own table, eating my own food, and I stayed quiet. "We need to talk," she said. "Yes," I agreed. "We do." She came over that afternoon with my grandson Tommy. He ran to me with a big hug while Sarah stood stiff in my doorway. "Grandma, why did you leave?" Tommy asked. I knelt down to his level. "Sometimes grown-ups need their own space," I said. "Like how you need your own bedroom." "Exactly like that." He nodded solemnly, then ran off to explore the house he hadn't seen in months. Sarah finally stepped inside. "Mom, this is crazy. You're acting like a child." I looked at her, really looked at her. When had my daughter become so stern, so sure she knew what was best for everyone? "I'm acting like myself," I said. Sarah rolled her eyes. "You can't live here alone anymore. You're almost 80. I'm 76. And I was living here just fine before you decided I couldn't." We stood in my living room, facing each other like strangers. What if you fall? What if you get sick? What if something happens and no one knows? Her questions came fast and worried. "What if I'm happier here than I was in your house?" Ask back. She blinked, surprised. "Were you unhappy?" The question was so genuine, so confused, that my heart softened a little. "Sweetheart," I said, sitting down and patting the couch beside me. She sat, but stayed at the far end. "Do you remember what you loved most when you were little?" She frowned. "I don't know. Playing outside, I guess." "Do you remember how mad you got when I told you it was time to come inside?" She nodded. "That's how I felt living with you. Like I was always being told it was time to come inside, time to be quiet, time to let someone else decide." Sarah was quiet for a long time. Tommy had curled up beside me with the photo album, pointing at pictures and asking questions. "Who's that? Where was this? Why are you wearing that funny hat?" I answered each one, feeling more like myself with every word. Finally, Sarah spoke. "I don't know how to stop worrying about you." "You don't have to stop worrying," I said. "You just have to stop letting your worry become my prison." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I thought I was helping." "I know you did. But help should make someone stronger, not smaller." We talked until dinner time. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. Sarah told me about the stress of managing her job, the kids, the house, and worrying about me on top of it all. I told her about feeling invisible in her home, about missing my routines, about wanting to feel useful instead of just cared for. "I still need you," I said. "But I need you as my daughter, not as my keeper." Tommy had fallen asleep against my shoulder, still clutching the photo album. "He missed you," Sarah said softly. "He kept asking why Grandma couldn't cook anymore." "I can still cook," I said, stroking Tommy's hair. "I can still do lots of things. I just need to do them here, in my own space, on my own terms." Sarah nodded slowly. "What if we compromise? What if I check on you every day, but you stay here?" Smiled. "What if you visit when you want to see me, not because you think you have to watch me?" She laughed a little. "That's probably better for both of us." We made plans. I would get one of those medical alert buttons to wear around my neck. She would call every evening, but not to check up on me, just to chat. The next few weeks felt like waking up from a long, strange dream. I started cooking again, real cooking, not just heating up frozen dinners. I invited Mrs. Chen over for coffee and homemade cookies. I planted new flowers in my garden, even though Sarah had said I shouldn't kneel anymore. My knees were fine. I had been the problem, not them. I joined the senior center's book club and made friends with women who understood what it meant to be widowed but not finished living. Every day, I felt more like Dorothy and less like just somebody's mom. Sarah kept her promise to visit, but now she came as a guest, not a supervisor. She would sit in my kitchen while I cooked, telling me about her day, asking for advice instead of giving it. The kids loved having their grandmother back too. They could run around my house without being shushed, help me bake cookies without being told it was too messy, listen to my stories without being hurried along. "You seem different, Grandma," my granddaughter Emma said one day. "How so?" I asked. "Happier. More." "Grandma, why?" I laughed. "More like myself, you mean?" "Yeah, that." 3 months after the turkey incident, Sarah brought me something special. It was a small wooden sign for my front door that read, "Dorothy's house." "I thought you might like it," she said, looking nervous. I hung it up immediately. That night, I sat on my front porch, looking at my sign, and called my sister in Florida. "Guess what?" I told her. "I'm living in Dorothy's house again." She laughed. "About time." We talked for 2 hours about everything and nothing. When I hung up, I realized I hadn't talked to my sister once during the months I lived with Sarah. The strangest thing about reclaiming my life was how simple it was. I had thought it would be hard, that I would struggle without someone managing my days. But I didn't struggle. Flourish. I woke up when I wanted to wake up. I ate what I wanted to eat. I watched the shows I enjoyed, not the ones everyone else picked. I read books without being told they were too sad or too boring. I listened to my old jazz records and danced in my kitchen when the mood struck me. Small freedoms that felt enormous after months of asking permission. One evening, while I was watering my garden, a young woman jogged past and stopped. "Excuse me," she said. "I live down the street. I just wanted to say your garden is beautiful." "Thank you," I said. "I'm Dorothy." "I'm Lisa. I've been wanting to ask. Do you sell your tomatoes? Mine never turn out like yours." We ended up talking for 20 minutes. She was new to the neighborhood, recently divorced, trying to figure out how to live alone for the first time in years. "It's scary but exciting," she said. "Yes," I agreed. "That's exactly what it is." That conversation made me think about how many women feel lost when they're suddenly on their own, whether from divorce, widowhood, or just finally breaking free from others' expectations. I decided to start a small group that met once a week at the community center. We called it Starting Over Supper Club. We shared meals and stories, tips for living alone, and encouragement for making big changes. Some women were in their 30s, some in their 80s. Age didn't matter. What mattered was the courage to choose yourself when everyone else expects you to choose them first. The group grew quickly. We met every Thursday evening, each person bringing something homemade. Maria, 65, had left her controlling husband after 40 years. Beth, 38, had moved out of her mother's house for the first time. Janet, 72, had decided to sell her big empty house and buy a small condo by the lake. We celebrated each other's victories, no matter how small. Learning to change a light bulb. Eating dinner at a restaurant alone. Saying no to family demands. These weren't just life skills. They were acts of self-respect. Sarah came to one of our meetings. I had invited her, not sure if she would come. She sat quietly at first, listening to the stories of women reclaiming their lives. When it was her turn to speak, she surprised me. "I'm here because I realized I don't know who I am when I'm not taking care of someone," she said. "I've been a wife and mother for so long that I forgot I'm also Sarah." The group welcomed her warmly. They understood that controllers often feel as trapped as the people they control. Watching Sarah discover her own independence was beautiful. She started taking pottery classes on Saturday mornings instead of cleaning the house. She went to movies by herself when she couldn't find someone to go with her. She even took a weekend trip to visit a college friend, leaving her husband to manage the kids alone. "I was afraid they couldn't function without me," she told me. "But they were fine. Maybe they needed space to figure things out too." Our relationship grew stronger as we both became more ourselves. The anniversary of the turkey incident came and went quietly. Sarah invited me for Thanksgiving dinner, but this time she asked what I wanted to bring and made sure there was a seat for me at the main table. I brought my famous apple pie and sat between Tommy and Emma, telling stories and laughing at their jokes. After dinner, Sarah pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For showing me that love isn't the same as control. For teaching me that helping someone sometimes means stepping back." That night, I drove home to my own house, tired but happy. I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my favorite chair, thinking about the year that had passed. It had been scary at first, living alone again after so many months of having every decision made for me. But scary and wrong are not the same thing. Sometimes the scariest choice is the rightest one. I looked around my living room, my books, my pictures, my memories arranged exactly how I liked them, and felt deeply grateful. The doorbell rang the next morning. It was Lisa from down the street, holding a potted plant. "I wanted to bring you something," she said. "You probably don't remember, but you gave me advice about my ex-husband's demands. You told me I didn't owe anyone an explanation for living my own life. It changed everything for me." I invited her in for coffee. She told me she had started graduate school, something she had wanted to do for years but her husband had discouraged. "I'm 52 and starting over," she said. "Better late than never," I replied. These conversations happen more often. Women from the support group, neighbors, even strangers who had heard about our Thursday meetings. They came seeking advice or just someone to listen. I realized that my small act of rebellion, walking out with that turkey, had somehow given other women permission to walk out on their own uncomfortable situations. Not necessarily dramatic exits, but quiet declarations of self-worth, setting boundaries, saying no, choosing themselves for once. One day, Emma asked me why I had really left their house. She was old enough now to understand more complex answers. "I left because I was disappearing," I told her. "What do you mean?" "I was becoming invisible, even to myself. I forgot that I had opinions and preferences and dreams. I forgot that my voice mattered." She nodded thoughtfully. "Is that why you started the dinner group?" "Partly. I wanted other women to remember their voices too." "Will you teach me how to never lose mine?" she asked. "We'll start right now," I said. Teaching Emma to value her own voice became one of my greatest joys. We practiced saying no to things she didn't want to do. We talked about the difference between being kind and being a pushover. We discussed how helping others should never mean losing yourself. "Some people will call you selfish for having boundaries," I warned her. "Let them. Your job isn't to make everyone else comfortable by being small." She listened with the intensity only children have, absorbing lessons I wished I had learned at her age. The support group evolved into something bigger. We started meeting twice a week, once for dinner and once for activities. We took day trips to museums and hiking trails. We attended plays and concerts together. We celebrated birthdays and holidays on our own terms. Some members found new relationships. Others embraced solitude. What mattered was that we were choosing. We were no longer passive recipients of other people's decisions about our lives. We were active participants in our own stories. I started keeping a journal, writing down thoughts I had been too afraid or too tired to think before. "Today I realized I like my coffee stronger than everyone else in my family," I wrote one morning. "I've been drinking weak coffee for years just to avoid the hassle of making it differently." Such a small thing, but it felt revolutionary. I started making my coffee exactly how I liked it. I painted my bedroom walls pale yellow because it made me happy. I bought a comfortable new chair for reading. These weren't rebellions against anyone. They were declarations for myself. Sarah noticed the changes during her weekly visits. "You seem more yourself," she said one afternoon as we worked in my garden together. "I am," I said. "I spent so many years being what other people needed me to be that I forgot what I wanted to be." "What do you want to be?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "Present, authentic, brave enough to take up space in my own life." We worked in comfortable silence, both of us learning that love could exist without control, that care could happen without management. The hardest part of reclaiming my life wasn't the practical stuff, learning to live alone again, managing my own schedule, making my own decisions. The hardest part was forgiving myself for letting it go in the first place. I had to forgive myself for being so afraid of being a burden that I became invisible. For confusing love with accommodation. For thinking that having needs made me needy. Self-forgiveness, I learned, is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice of treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. 1 year after the turkey incident, I decided to host Thanksgiving dinner. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I invited Sarah's family, Mrs. Chen, 3 women from the support group, and Lisa from down the street. I cooked all morning, humming to myself, arranging flowers from my garden on the table. When everyone arrived, I sat at the head of my own table in my own house, surrounded by people I had chosen to share this moment with. The conversation was lively, the food was delicious, and I felt completely myself. During dessert, Tommy raised his little hand like he was in school. "I want to say something," he announced. We all turned to him. "I'm thankful for Grandma Dorothy for being brave." The adults all looked confused, but I understood. "Thank you, sweetheart," I said. "I'm thankful for you reminding me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when you're scared." Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'm thankful for second chances," she said softly. After everyone left, I sat in my clean kitchen, tired but content. The turkey platter that had started this whole journey sat empty on the counter, waiting to be washed. I picked it up and remembered that moment a year ago when I decided I deserved better than eating alone in the kitchen while everyone else enjoyed the meal I had prepared. That moment of self-respect had changed everything. Not just for me but for my daughter, my grandchildren, and all the women who had heard my story and decided they deserved better too. I washed the platter carefully and put it away in the cabinet where it belonged. Tomorrow there would be leftover turkey sandwiches, quiet morning coffee, and maybe a call from one of the women in the group sharing a victory or asking for advice. My life was full but not overwhelming, busy but not frantic. I had learned to distinguish between loneliness and solitude, between being needed and being loved, between helping others and losing myself. These distinctions had set me free. Looking back, I realized that walking out with that turkey wasn't really about the turkey at all. It was about remembering that I am a person with dignity, preferences, and worth. It was about refusing to be in. If you're listening to this and you recognize yourself in my story, please know this. You are not selfish for wanting to be seen and valued. You are not ungrateful for expecting basic respect. You are not too old, too young, too dependent, or too anything to deserve kindness from the people who claim to love you. Your voice matters. Your preferences matter. Your comfort matters. You don't have to earn your place at the table by making yourself smaller. You belong at the table simply because you're human. The morning after that first Thanksgiving in my own home, I woke up naturally with the sunrise. I made my coffee strong, scrambled my eggs soft, and sat at my kitchen table reading the newspaper. Simple pleasures that felt like victories. My phone rang. Sarah calling for our daily chat. "How are you feeling today, Mom?" she asked. "Like myself," I said, and I meant it. "Good," she replied. "That's exactly how you should feel." We talked for 20 minutes about ordinary things. The weather, the grandchildren's school projects, her pottery class. Normal conversation between 2 women who respect each other. Sometimes people ask me if I regret those months of living with Sarah's family, of letting myself become invisible. I don't regret them because they taught me something valuable. I am responsible for my own dignity. No one else can protect it for me. No one else can demand it on my behalf. I have to stand up for myself, speak up for my needs, and remember that accommodating others should never mean erasing myself. That's a lesson worth learning at any age. Today marks 2 years since I walked out with that turkey. I'm sitting in my garden, watching the tomatoes ripen, thinking about all the women who have found their voices through our support group. Maria divorced her controlling husband and moved to a little apartment by the beach. Beth set boundaries with her intrusive mother and started dating again. Janet bought her dream condo and learned to kayak at 73. Sarah has become more confident at work and more present with her children. Each woman's story is different, but the theme is the same. It's never too late to choose yourself. My house feels different now than it did 2 years ago. It's not just where I live. It's where I belong. Every room reflects my choices, my tastes, my comfort. The kitchen smells like the meals I want to cook. The living room is arranged for the conversations I want to have. The bedroom is painted the color that makes me happy when I wake up each morning. These aren't grand gestures. They're daily affirmations that my preferences matter, that I deserve to live in a space that honors who I am. The support group continues to grow. We now have women ranging from 19 to 91. The youngest joined after leaving an emotionally abusive boyfriend. The oldest came after deciding to stop letting her adult children dictate her social life. Age is irrelevant when it comes to reclaiming your dignity. What matters is the willingness to believe you deserve better and the courage to create change in your life. Every woman who walks through our doors teaches me something new about resilience, about the many ways we can disappear in our own lives and the many ways we can return. I keep in touch with many of the women who've moved on from the group, women who no longer need weekly meetings because they've internalized the lessons of self-respect. They send me updates. Promotions at work, new hobbies, healthy relationships, boundary-setting victories with family members. "Thank you for showing me I didn't have to disappear to be loved," wrote one woman. "Thank you for teaching me that my voice is not too loud, too much, or too inconvenient," wrote another. These messages remind me that small acts of self-respect can ripple out in ways we never imagine. Sarah and I have found a new rhythm in our relationship. She calls when she wants to talk, not because she thinks she needs to check on me. She visits when she misses me, not because she's worried about me. She asks for my advice because she values my wisdom, not because she wants to humor an old woman. I share my opinions honestly instead of trying to guess what she wants to hear. We disagree sometimes, and that's okay. Healthy relationships can hold disagreement. Love doesn't require constant agreement. It requires mutual respect. The grandchildren have benefited from seeing me strong and independent. Emma, now 14, came to me recently with a problem at school. Some friends were pressuring her to skip class with them. "I don't want to, but I don't want them to think I'm boring," she said. We talked about the difference between being liked and being respected. Would you rather have friends who like you for going along with everything, or friends who respect you for having your own thoughts? Yes, he chose respect. She's learning early what took me decades to understand. Tommy, now 10, has started helping me in the garden. He likes to plant seeds and watch them grow. "Why do some plants need more space than others?" he asked one day. "Because they're all different," I explained. "Some need lots of room to spread out, others are happy close together. The important thing is giving each plant what it needs to be healthy." "Like people?" he asked. "Exactly like people." He's learning that differences aren't problems to be solved. They're realities to be honored. Last month, I received a letter from a woman in Oregon who had heard my story through a mutual friend. "Your turkey story gave me permission to leave my son's house and move into my own apartment," she wrote. "I was so afraid of being alone that I let myself become a burden and a ghost. Now I'm alone but not lonely, independent but not isolated. Thank you for showing me the difference." Stories like hers arrive regularly now, reminders that choosing yourself doesn't just change your own life, it gives others permission to choose themselves too. I've started writing more, documenting not just my own journey but the stories of other women who've reclaimed their lives. There's something powerful about seeing your experience reflected in someone else's words, about realizing you're not the only one who felt invisible in your own life. These stories matter because they remind us that we're not alone in our struggles and we don't have to be alone in our victories. Change is possible at any age, in any circumstance, with any amount of support. The other day, while I was at the grocery store, a young cashier commented on my flowers. "Those are beautiful," she said. "Did you grow them yourself?" "I did," I said proudly. "I planted them, watered them, weeded around them, and cut them this morning." "That's so cool," she said. "I wish I could do that." "You can," I told her. "You just have to start." Such a simple exchange, but it reminded me that confidence is contagious. When we live authentically, It inspires others to consider what authentic living might look like for them. Every morning when I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, drinking my own coffee made exactly how I like it, I remember that moment 2 years ago when I chose myself over everyone else's comfort. It wasn't selfish. It was necessary. It wasn't cruel. It was kind to me, to my daughter, to my grandchildren, and to every woman who needed to see that it's possible to reclaim your dignity after you've given it away. Some days are harder than others, but none of them are as hard as the days when I was disappearing in plain sight. The support group is planning a special dinner for our 2nd anniversary. We're calling it Celebrating Our Voices. Each woman will share something she's learned about herself since joining the group. I know what I'll share. I'll talk about learning to distinguish between being helpful and being used, between being flexible and being invisible, between being loving and being lost. These distinctions have been life-changing. They've helped me build relationships based on mutual respect rather than one-sided sacrifice. If I could go back and talk to the woman I was 2 years ago, the one standing in that dining room, being told to eat in the kitchen like a child, I would tell her this. You are not asking for too much when you ask for basic respect. You are not being dramatic when you refuse to be invisible. You are not selfish when you choose dignity over convenience. Your feelings are valid. Your needs are legitimate. Your voice deserves to be heard. Walk out with that turkey and don't look back. People sometimes ask me if I'm lonely living by myself. The question always makes me smile because it shows they don't understand the difference between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness is feeling invisible and unheard even when surrounded by people who claim to love you. Solitude is feeling peaceful and complete in your own company. I spent months lonely in a house full of people. Now I live in blessed solitude, connected to others by choice rather than necessity, valued for who I am rather than what I provide. My calendar is full but not overwhelming. Book club on Mondays, garden club on Wednesdays, support group on Thursdays, family dinner every other Sunday. I choose my commitments based on joy and purpose rather than obligation and guilt. I say yes to things that energize me and no to things that drain me. I've learned that every yes to something that doesn't serve me is a no to something that might. The transformation wasn't immediate or easy. There were nights when I questioned my decision, mornings when I felt the weight of living alone. But doubt and regret are different things. Doubt is natural when you're changing your life. Regret comes from not changing when you know you should. I had doubts, but I never had regrets. Each day in my own space, making my own choices, living by my own rules, confirmed that I had made the right decision. Freedom isn't comfortable at first when you're used to having all your decisions made for you, but it's worth the adjustment period. Sarah has started bringing her friends to meet me when they're struggling with aging parents or difficult family dynamics. Talk to my mom, she tells them. She figured something out that I'm still learning. These conversations are always enlightening. I hear stories of elderly parents being treated like burdens, middle-aged children overwhelmed by guilt and responsibility, families stuck in patterns that serve no one well. I share what I've learned. That love and control are not the same thing, that helping someone doesn't mean managing their entire life. One woman, Margaret, came to me in tears. Her mother had just moved in with her family, and it wasn't going well. She criticizes everything I do, Margaret said. How I cook, how I parent, how I keep house. But when I suggest she might be happier in her own place, she gets upset and says I'm abandoning her. I listened carefully. What does your mother miss most about her old life? Yes. Margaret thought for a moment. Her independence, I think. And feeling needed rather than needy. We talked about ways to honor both needs. Margaret's for a peaceful home, her mother's for dignity and purpose. These conversations have taught me that my turkey story isn't really about turkey, or even about living alone. It's about the universal need for dignity, respect, and self-determination. Every person, regardless of age or circumstance, deserves to feel valued for who they are, not just what they can provide. When we lose sight of that, whether we're the ones being diminished or the ones doing the diminishing, relationships suffer and people disappear emotionally even when they're physically present. I've started volunteering at the senior center, leading discussion groups about healthy aging and family relationships. The conversations are always rich and complex. Some participants are dealing with overprotective adult children. Others are struggling to maintain independence while accepting help they genuinely need. We talk about the difference between reasonable accommodation and unnecessary limitation, between accepting support and accepting control. These distinctions matter because they determine whether aging brings wisdom and peace or frustration and invisibility. The most rewarding part of my volunteer work is watching people rediscover their voices. There's a man named Frank who hadn't made a single decision about his own life in the 3 years since his wife died. His daughter had taken over everything. Through our group discussions, he realized he was grieving not just his wife but also himself. He started small, choosing his own clothes instead of letting his daughter lay them out, picking his own TV shows instead of watching what she preferred. "I feel like a person again," he told me. "Not just someone's project." The ripple effects of reclaiming your dignity extend far beyond your own life. Emma, my granddaughter, is now in high school and known for her strong sense of self. She stands up to peer pressure, speaks up in class discussions, and isn't afraid to have unpopular opinions. "Grandma Dorothy taught me that being liked and being respected aren't the same thing," she tells her friends. Tommy has grown into a thoughtful young man who notices when people are being left out or spoken over. Both children understand that love means seeing and valuing someone, not managing or minimizing them. Sarah has become an advocate in her own right, helping other women in her community navigate difficult family dynamics. She's learned to recognize the signs of someone disappearing in their own life, always apologizing, asking permission for basic preferences, making themselves small to avoid conflict. "I was so focused on protecting my mom from potential problems that I created actual problems," she tells people. "I thought love meant taking control. I learned it means offering support." The support group has evolved into something beautiful and sustainable. We have a mentorship program where women who've successfully reclaimed their lives guide newer members through the process. We have practical workshops on everything from managing finances to setting boundaries with family members. We have social events that aren't about fixing or healing anything, just about enjoying each other's company as whole, complete people. The group reminds me weekly that connection without condition is possible, that relationships can be nourishing rather than draining. Looking back on these 2 years, I'm struck by how simple the solution was and how difficult it felt at the time. I just had to remember that I'm a person with inherent worth, not a problem to be managed or a burden to be accommodated. I had to stop waiting for others to see my value and start insisting on it myself. I had to learn that disappointing people who don't respect you isn't actually disappointing. It's clarifying. It shows you who you're dealing with and what the relationship is really based on. Every morning when I wake up in my own bed, I'm grateful not just for my house and my independence, but for the example I've apparently set for other women. The letters and emails continue to arrive from women who heard my story and found the courage to reclaim their own lives. A 70-year-old who left her controlling son's house. A 50-year-old who stopped letting her mother guilt her into constant visits. A 30-year-old who moved out of her parents' house despite their protests that she wasn't ready. Age doesn't determine readiness for independence. Courage does. If you're listening to this story and you recognize yourself in it, whether you're the one who's disappearing or the one who's making someone disappear, please know that change is possible. It starts with honest conversation about needs, boundaries, and respect. It continues with small acts of self-advocacy or other advocacy. It grows through consistency and patience with the process. Relationships can be restructured when everyone involved cares more about connection than control, more about love than convenience. The turkey that started this whole journey sits in my cabinet, waiting for the next holiday meal I'll prepare in my own kitchen for people who value my presence as much as my cooking. It reminds me daily that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve. Not with anger or resentment, but with quiet dignity and clear boundaries. Self-respect isn't selfish. It's necessary. And it's never too late to choose yourself. My story continues to unfold each day, not with drama or crisis, but with the quiet satisfaction of living authentically. I wake up when my body wants to wake up. I eat what appeals to me. I spend my time on relationships and activities that bring joy and meaning. I say no to requests that don't align with my values or energy. I've learned that a life lived on your own terms isn't perfect, but it's real. And real, I've discovered, is infinitely better than invisible. So to every woman who's listening and wondering if it's too late to reclaim your dignity, your voice, your space in the world, it's not too late. It's never too late. Start today. Start small. Start with one choice that honors who you are rather than who everyone else needs you to be. Your future self, and possibly many other women, will thank you for your courage. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to live your own life. You just need your own commitment to treating yourself with the respect you deserve. 2 years ago, I walked out of my daughter's house carrying a turkey and my dignity. Today, I sit in my own kitchen, surrounded by the life I chose for myself, grateful for that moment of clarity that changed everything. The turkey was just the beginning. What followed was a complete transformation. Not just of my living situation, but of my relationship with myself and my understanding of what love really means. If my story helps even one person choose themselves over others' convenience, then that difficult day was worth every uncomfortable moment. The sun is setting now as I finish telling this story. My kitchen is warm, my tea is perfect, and tomorrow holds nothing but possibility. I'll tend my garden, visit with friends, maybe call one of the women from the support group to check in. Simple pleasures that feel like victories because they're chosen freely, enjoyed fully, and shared generously. This is what dignity looks like in daily life. Quiet, consistent, unashamed, and utterly mine. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, you matter. Your voice matters. Your comfort matters. And you never have to earn your place at the table by making yourself smaller. The table is big enough for all of us exactly as we are.